Let's jump into some of our discussion and get some of these preliminaries out of the way. As we have done before, in the event that you're new to us, I recommend that you put your Zoom setup into speaker mode. Or if you happen to be running on an iPad for Zoom, it's referred to as the active speaker mode. This is the mode where on my screen, my camera comes front and center, as opposed to having the Brady Bunch, lined up. And to put it into speaker mode, if you aren't there already, you're going to go up to the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom window. And if you click on a button that's labeled View, up on the upper right-hand corner of the screen, it's up there. You can then choose Speaker View as opposed to Gallery View. So Speaker View is the one that you want. Now you can flip back and forth between those views, all right? But what this is going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to make really quick transitions, all right? Because now I should be taking up the major part of your screen, but there will be times where I will be using my slide deck. There will be times where I will be referencing a website, all right? You don't have to do anything to do this. There will be times where I'm going to show you my iPhone. This is actually my iPhone on the right-hand side, all right? And so what I really want is if you put yourself into speaker view, that is going to give you the best experience for the exploration that we are going to do today. To remind you where we are at, all right, in our roadmap, this happens to be the 6th in our iPhone photography series. This is our 6th Tuesday. Now, I have creatively numbered it as STT number 15. This is the 15th Senior Tech Tuesday that I have done since last fall, right? And so this is labeled STT 15. And this is the session where we are going to be exploring how we organize our photos. Now, the reason that STT 15 is kind of important, I know the numbering doesn't make sense, 6 in a series, STT 14, or I'm sorry, STT 15. But the reason it's important is if you look down at the link at the bottom of the page here, if you put STT 15 at the end of this link, this is links.seniortechclub.com/STT15 is going to be the link that you can use in your web browser in order to bring us to our class page. More on that in just a little bit. All right, our mission today is I am going to propose that we are going to be calling out your Marie Kondo. All right, because I have seen very typically that many people's photo libraries are quite disorganized. And of course, Marie Kondo was very trendy a year ago, right? And she was that organization expert where she had this strategy in order to organize your house and organize your life. And actually, she referred to it as, one of the assessments that you want to make on the stuff in your life is, does it spark joy? And if it does not spark joy, what was her message? Throw it out, right? And so there's going to be a little bit of that. So our mission today is I'm going to be calling out your Marie Kondo. And very specifically, we're going to be looking at using albums in order to organize your photos. All right, the tools that we are going to be using. We're obviously going to be using the Zoom platform. And right now we have 33 people on the line with our Zoom session. We are going to be using the slide deck, and that slide deck is downloadable from our class page. I will show you that here in just a second. I am going to be doing lots of demonstrations today. And when I do those demonstrations, I invite you to join with me. All right, that look is going to be like this. And so here you're looking at my my phone. This is my real phone right here on the right hand side. And so as I navigate into the various apps, I'm going to be sharing with you and demonstrating these techniques for organizing your photos. Your questions are important, and you can do the Gigi, I wish I could make the phone a little bit larger, but that's the best thing that you can do is to put yourself, make sure that you're in speaker mode, and get into speaker mode by tapping on the icon in the upper right hand corner of the screen and making sure that I am occupying the main part of the screen. If I am in gallery view, all right, then that, you know, you're not going to be able to see stuff. All right, and this is as large as I can get my phone to be. All right, so sorry about, you know, that's a limitation of this platform, but make sure that I'm in speaker mode. Questions. You can come on the line and just say, hey, Don, if you have a question as we walk through any of these topics, or optionally, you can also send me an email, you know, after class, and I will do the best I can to respond to your emails. Our online class page, talked about this before. There is a page that has the link that you see on the slide deck, links.seniortechclub.com/STT15. That is going to take you to a page that looks like this. Actually, it's going to look like, I got to do a little shifting here. It's going to look like sorry, I've got too many windows open here. And when we go back to, hang on, there it is. All right, now I'm doing better. Okay, your class page is going to look like this. All right, and so if you do that links.seniortechclub.com/STT15, that is going to take you to a page like this that, first of all, is going to identify the topics that we're going to explore today. Down here, there's two links here for slide decks. One is if you click on View Online, this is the slide deck. You can actually view it online without downloading it. Or optionally, you can click on Slide Deck for Download, where you can actually download it and be able to print it. One of the things that I do is, as we walk through these topics, you know, I am recording this session as we speak. And so if you click down where it says view the recording of this session, this has not been updated. This is last week's session, right? But later, probably later today, by the end of the day, maybe first thing tomorrow morning, you should be able to come back here and you should be able to see the video from this session. That would allow you to revisit any of the topics we explored today. That also gives us the opportunity to move fairly fast. All right, I know I'm guilty. I always try and cover more material than what we can cover in an hour's time in these sessions. And so consequently, I do need to keep things moving along in order to cover quickly. Some people come back to me and say, hey, that was a little too fast for me, all right? Well, the good news is you can come back and you can cover these topics a couple of different ways. Number one, you can come back and watch the video later. Number two, you can come down and you can view my lessons on these topics. Right. And so I have an online lesson that's called Organizing Your Photos with Albums. And if you just click on this link, it will allow you to view this whole lesson that I have created on this topic. All right. So we're going to move fairly quickly as we walk through these topics. Now, one more thing, I'm still back on our class page now. This is on our STT15 class page. I do give you links to the iPhone user guide. I also give you links to some of the resources provided by Apple that will help you through some of these topics. All right, and so these are found, if you click on where it says links and other resources, that'll bring you into other information that you can use as you explore what we discuss. All right, so that's the information that's found on our online class page, right? Come back to that at some later point if you want to check out the recipes or some of the online resources. And the final thing before we jump into our topic, please explore with me. All right, I'd like people to be using Zoom on a computer where it can get as big as it can possibly get, and explore with me as we walk through these various topics. I know that we have different types of iPhones, and I am going to be showing you these album strategies as they work on iOS 14. iOS is, of course, the software that runs your phone. All right. If you happen to have an older iPhone, our iPhones have had albums available since like iOS 8. All right, so it's been quite a few years. So I'm assuming that you, although you might have a different look, there will be some of these basic concepts that should be available if you happen to be a user of an older iPhone. Right. Here are the things that we want to explore today. And so now I've already used 46 minutes of our allotted 1 hour of time. So we're going to have to move. Oh, no, we've used 14 minutes. We have 46 left. We are going to have to move fairly quickly. We are interested in exploring the topic of what is an album. I want to show you and talk about some of the predefined albums. We're going to talk about custom albums. I think one of the more important slides in this whole discussion is what I provide to you about rules, right? There are some rules that are important around using albums. And the reason I say this is because I don't want you to delete a photo from an album without understanding what it is that you're actually deleting. All right. Then we're going to walk through 2 steps for creating albums. All right. I have a preferred strategy for creating albums, but then there's a second strategy that you may have to use on occasion. And then, of course, when you create an album, then you have to go through the process of how do you add photos to the album. So these 2 topics right here are really the 2 core elements of our discussion. How do you create albums? How do you add photos to the albums? After we've completed those steps, I have 4 actions related to albums, 4 things that I would like to do. All right. Number 1, I want to show you how to remove a photo from an album. Because if you have created this perfect family album that you intend to share during a holiday, during the Christmas holidays, as an example, I want to make sure that you understand how you can remove a photo from an album. I want to show you how you can remove an album that you have created for some short-term purpose, and you can actually remove an album without removing the photos right from your iPhone. I want to show you how to do a slideshow from an album. One of the reasons why you might create an album is you have a family gathering coming up and you would like to create a slideshow from that album. And this will be an opportunity for you to play the role of Ken Burns, the famous let's see, the famous videographer who oftentimes records our history on, on that you often see on public TV. And then I'm also going to show you how to create a memory movie. And then the last topic is we'll just identify what's next. All right, so those are the 4 items that we are going to explore under the category of album actions. All right, so we now have 36 people on the line, and I think we're going to jump into our first topic. Is everybody ready? By the way, it's totally optional if you display yourself on camera or not. That's totally up to you. I have taken everybody off of, I have put everybody on mute when they came on. If you want to come on and say, hey, Don, I have a question, you can totally do that also. Right, everything that we are doing here today is going to be using the Photos app. And there's actually a couple of different ways that you can get to the Photos app. The Photos app is, of course, where your photos and videos are hosted on your iPhone. 2 ways to launch the Photos app. One is you can launch it from the icon right on your home screen. Or secondly, you can get to the Photos app by tapping on this little thumbnail that's inside the Camera app, right? That will also take you into the Photos app, right? And so our mission here is calling out the Marie Kondo in you. We are talking about organizing your photo library using albums. And if you look on the bottom of your Photos app, there is actually a tab with an icon labeled albums at the bottom, right? And that is going to take you into the set of albums that exist on your iPhone. There are actually 3 types of albums that will show up under the Photos app. There are predefined albums that are created for you. They come on the phone, right? So example, and we'll break these out, but examples are your favorites album or your media types albums are created for you. More definition on that in just a bit. You have the ability to create custom albums. And oftentimes when people are creating, looking at organizing their photo library, they want to create custom albums, right? So that if you take a vacation, you might like to create an album that contains all of the photos that are associated with that vacation, right? That's one of the ways that you might use these albums. The third type of album is going to be a shared album that you create because you intend to share these photos with others. I happen to be looking at Gail on the line here this morning. Gail sent me a shared album earlier this week, and I've had a busy week, Gail. All right, I will be getting to that, all right, in just a bit. But the point is that you can create shared albums in order to share photos with others. We're not going to cover that today, right? That is going to be a topic for 2 weeks from now when we cover STT 17. I'm going to be sharing a whole range, really more of the sharing strategies. All right, so here's the point. When you are in the Photos app, there are 3 different types of albums. Each of those need definitions. Let's start on that. Now, before we do that, I do want to do just a quick reminder about when you are in the Photos app, right? So that when you're in there, and this is the topic that we actually explored a couple of weeks ago, right? But when you're in the Photos app, you can tap on an individual photo in order to display it, right? Once you have that photo displayed, you can expand it by pinching and expanding it, right, just on the screen itself. The share icon is going to be important in our discussion today. Share is that icon that looks with the square with the arrow pointing up. That is the icon that you press or tap in order to share, organize, copy, print, and more. There's a few more things there. You have a favorites icon when you're displaying a photo, and that's the heart symbol. And we will reference the favorites albums briefly in a bit. We did talk about favorites last week in STT 11. So if you want a full lesson on favorites, I would recommend that you go back to STT number 14 and perhaps review that video. Your photo display has a trash can that's usually on the lower right-hand corner, right? And the trash can is going to be your delete action. And we are going to be using that today. And then finally, if you are displaying a photo on the upper right, up on the upper right, there is an edit command. And we are not going to be talking about edit today. Edit is going to be a topic of next week, STT number 16. So that's just a quick review of some of the key actions that you have when you display a photo. But what we wanted to do was to talk about our various albums and various album strategies that you can use in order to organize your photos. We said that when you tap on albums, that there are predefined albums that are already on your phone. You do not have to create these. So, for example, all photos is predefined on your phone. And so if I show you my phone, and if I go into my Photos app and I get back up to the top, if I go to my icons, my tabs on the bottom, and if I tap on library, and then I have all photos, right? All photos is essentially one of the predefined albums. And so I happen to have 7,317 photos in my all photos collection. Right. Similarly, instead of looking at all photos, if you go back to the albums tab, so you tap on albums and you go back to the albums tab, and now I have recents. All right, recents is a predefined album. And the reason I call it default is because it's populated for you, right? You don't do anything to change recents, all right? So I can tap on recents, and here is my recents collection. And lo and behold, you discovered that I also have 7,319 photos and 315 videos, all right, under recents, right? That's predefined, right? You don't change that. If I tap the back arrow that's up on the upper right-hand corner of the screen, that will take me back to the top level of my albums, right? Because that's where I want to be, because I would like to show you the media types, right? Media types are also an example of a predefined album. So the way I get to media types is to tap on albums, right? And I'm already there. And then if I scroll down, eventually I will get to a whole section of the albums tab that's called media types. And under media types, you can then see an album of all of the media types, as an example, videos or selfies or live photos under that particular album. So just for an example here, I am going to tap on live photos. And if I tap on live photos under media types, I am now displaying all of the live photos that are on my device. This is another example. And by the way, I tapped the back arrow on the upper left in order to go back to the top level. The point here is that media types is predefined. All right, you can't, it's populated for you. Or similarly, last week, we talked about using places and people as a way to organize and find your photos, right? So under albums, you have places and people. Now, we talked about this last week, so we're not going to cover it here today, but this is where your iPhone, for instance, I can tap on, I'm going to tap on my wife Joan's picture right on this screen. And the point here is just a way of demonstrating that when I do that, I can then find all of the photos that are associated with her, right? And these are populated automatically, right? Now, this is one of those places where it can make mistakes, and there are strategies for changing this, all right? And we're not going to cover that today, all right? What we want to do is actually talk about the albums that we can change, all right? We did cover this briefly last week, a little bit about how to put names on these people locations. Places, if you tap on the map, I'm back to the top level, right? And if I tap on the map, I can get a map that shows all of the locations where I have photos taken. All right, this is pretty cool. And once again, places, assuming that your location services are on, places is predefined and pre-populated for you. Hence, I called it a default album. All right. If you want to learn more about places, go back to last week. We covered that more in STT number 14. All right, I'm going to go back up to the top level of albums and go on, because I have another set of predefined albums. And these are albums that already exist on your phone. They're predefined, but you have to fill them. All right, so these are predefined albums that you fill. Right, so as an example, favorites is a predefined album that you fill, and you fill those. This was a topic that we explored last week, but just to remind you, right? If I go to a photo, so I'm just going to tap on a photo like this one. This is a picture of my, I didn't mean to go with that one. I'm going to go back to here. This is a photo of my my two grandsons helping make cupcakes on Valentine's Day. All right. If this photo is going to go to my favorites, what you're going to do is you're going to tap on the heart symbol on the bottom of the photo. So you tap on heart, you heart this photo. Now this has been added to your favorites photo, to your favorites album, right? And we can confirm that if I go back up to the top level, and there is favorites, all right? My favorites album is right on the main part of the screen. If I tap on favorites, I am now viewing my favorites album, and there it is. There's the photo that I just hearted, right? You should be using favorites. Everybody on the line, all 39 of you on the line should be using favorites, because it is an easy way for you to create that brag book of the most important photos that you have in your photo library. If you want to turn off favorites, you just tap on the heart symbol again. I just turned off the heart. All right, so you can go on or off, right? So everybody on the line here, I want everybody that I can see to be nodding their head. Everybody should have favorites, all right? Everybody should be using favorites because it is the easiest way for you to collect that group of family photos that you might be looking to share with people. I'm going to go back up to the top level of my albums again. Top level. There is a hidden album. And the way you get to hidden is you scroll all the way down to the bottom. It's way below the media types. There is a album that is labeled hidden. Now, what you're going to do is I'm not going to show you my hidden photos, right? Because they're hidden for a reason, right? You know, as an example, I have a photo of my driver's license, right, that I have taken, and then I put it into hidden. So that means, you know, it's not going to display when I display my photos. But yet, you know, every once in a while, if somebody needs to know my driver's license number and my wallet isn't sitting at my side, I can actually retrieve my driver's license from there. I have a picture of my passport. Now, some people might argue, well, Don, is your phone secure enough so that if you lose your phone, that you wouldn't be sharing your passport with a bad person, all right? And I have secured my phone with a 6-digit passcode and Face ID. And so, yes, I do believe that it is secure enough that would allow me to put stuff like that. All right, so here's another one that's more practical. I have this bicycle lock that I only use during the summer. And for the life of me, I simply cannot remember the 4-digit passcode for that bicycle lock. So what do? You take a picture of it, and then I keep it under my hidden folder. All right. And so you do have this hidden. So now I haven't asked the question. I haven't answered the question yet. Don, how do you hide a photo? All right. And it looks like this. I'm going to go back up to the top. And I am going to go into my recents, right? I'm going to go into recents. And I know that I have a selfie right here. I have a selfie that I took a week ago. Let's say I want to hide this selfie. I just don't want to share it, all right, with, you know, as part of my recents, all right, or all photos. What I do is I tap on the share icon on the lower left. I tap on share. And if I scroll down, one of my share options is to hide. And so if I tap on hide, that is going to take me down a process where I can then confirm. Now, you may not be able to see this on the Zoom screen, but it actually tells me right here. It says the photo will be hidden, but can be found in the hidden album. You can choose to show or hide the hidden album in settings, all right? That's kind of a way of saying, you know, it's not totally secure. You're not putting a passcode right on this hidden folder, but it is hidden from everyday view. So if I choose hide photo, that, you know, I can actually now go back to my recents, and that photo is no longer displayed on under recents. And so it's a good way just to remove it from general view. All right, I want to show you one more thing. And that is I'm going to tap on a photo, right? This happens to be a photo of my 2 grandsons and Joan. And this is the process of making cupcakes on Valentine's Day. I'm going to delete this photo. And so if you recall, you delete photos by tapping on the trash can, right? So I can tap on the trash can, And now it asks for a confirmation. And so I tap on delete photo. And that will remove the photo from recent. And now I discover in horror that no, I did not want to delete that photo. That was a photo that I wanted to keep. That was a mistake, right? Well, it turns out that all of the photos that you delete are temporarily stored in a recently deleted album. And they are stored there for 30 days, after which they're gone. But accidental deletes are recoverable. Right? If you go back into the online page, you'll get a detailed recipe. I'll do a quick demonstration of that, just so that we can prove that it actually works. I'm going to go back up to the top level. I'm up at the top level of my albums, right? So this would be just like you tap on the albums tab, right? So I'm on the top level. I am now going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, down below my media type, all the way down to the utilities. And I can tap under recently deleted, and here are 8 photos that I have recently deleted. Here's the one that I just put in there, the one that was a mistake. And notice on the lower right-hand corner of my screen, I have a recover. So I can tap on recover photo, and it will now put it back into, oh, I'm going to go back. You're seeing some of my experimentation stuff, all right? But that photo was now recovered from the recently deleted. All right, so here's the point. All right, recently deleted is another example of what I would call a predefined album, right? However, you fill it, right? You fill it by deleting photos. Photos that you delete will stay in the recently deleted album for 30 days, following which they are gone forever, right? By the way, there's another note that I should just make about deleted photos, and I do identify this in some of the rules around photos too. When you delete a photo, right, and if you are also syncing your photos to other devices using iCloud, you are also deleting the photos on the other devices, right? So delete once, delete everywhere. So you do have to be aware of that. We'll share more of that on STT 17 in 2 weeks when we talk about iCloud and sharing. All right. So anyway, that was a long description of predefined albums that you fill, right? Another category of albums is custom albums. And these are the albums that you create in order to organize your photos, right? A perfect example is if you take a vacation, why not take all of the photos associated with that vacation and throw them into a photo? That's a great way to organize them. It's a great way to find them quickly. It's a great way to create slideshows and movies from them. When you create custom albums, you can create an unlimited number of albums. There's no limit. Next point, I'm going to share with you some rules here in just a bit. But when you put a photo into an album, it does not duplicate the photo, right? It only creates pointers to the original copy of that photo, right? And so that's why you can actually take a picture of that vacation shot, you know, that perfect vacation shot, and have it in a vacation photo, but you can also have it in your favorites album, and you can also put it into your Christmas card album. All right, that's the album that you might be creating in order to host the cards that you print on your holiday photo card. All right. Albums replicate to iCloud and other devices. And so if you organize your photos on your iPhone, those albums will show up on your iPad and on your Mac computer. Right? Pretty nice. Custom albums are great for doing slideshows and memory movies. Right? I will show you how to do that. I know I'm going to run over time here as I'm watching the clock, so bear with me. All right, I will get to that and show you how to create a slideshow. And then you can also organize your albums into photos. Now, this is beyond what I'm going to be able to cover here today, but here's an example of what I mean by this. I'm going to go to my albums, and I'm going to go to my custom albums. And if I scroll down, I have a folder that's called Vacations. And what I have done is I have taken recent vacations and I have created albums for those vacations. But what I have done is I have organized those albums under a folder. So it's an additional level of organization. I'm not going to show you how to do that. Right, that's a topic in and of itself. But if you have thousands of photos and you're doing lots and lots of events and you would like to add some organization, there is a strategy, and I have provided a link to the Apple documentation for creating that. All right. Our primary topic here today is about how do you create custom albums so that you can call out this inner Marie Kondo and organize your photos. Here are my rules. And I have to say, I think these rules are pretty important. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about these rules because I think it helps. Number one, it helps your understanding of albums. And it also helps to ensure that you don't make any mistakes, all right, in the process of creating albums. All right, so here are my rules. And by the way, I'm kind of proud of these rules. I do not see rules like this broken out in any of the other resources on the internet around photography. Even the guy that wants to sell you that $79 iPhone photography class who keeps popping up in your Facebook stream, in other places, he doesn't even have a list like this. So I'm pretty darn proud of this list. So, you know, and you get to use it. All right, here's my rules. Rule number one, photos are always stored under recents in all photos. This is like the master copy of a photo. So if you are looking for new photos that you have just taken recently, I would look under recents. It's a great place for doing that. Right? Photos that you take automatically go to recents, and they are also stored under all photos. That is like the master copy. Rule number two, photos are automatically organized into default predefined albums like media types, people, places, categories. We talked about categories last week. Categories is where you can look for the word dog or you can look for the word car and in the search window, and it'll pull up those categories of photos, right? In those default predefined albums, people is the only default album that can really be altered, right? Because it does make, the photo recognition does make a mistake. And that's a topic that we talked about last week. You can also put names on your people. Rule number three, you can create unlimited custom albums to organize your photos for displaying, printing, browsing, slideshows, and sharing. Many as you want. Rule number 4. A photo can be placed in multiple custom albums. You can have a photo in vacations, in holiday card, in family, and there's no limit. Right? Rule number 5. Photos are only stored once. Right? When you put a photo into an album, you are not duplicating that photo. Right? You are using the master copy of the photo, and custom albums really just contain pointers back to the master, right? That means that you can take a photo and put it into as many custom photos as you want, and you are not using up the storage space on your device. Next, if you want to truly delete a photo, right? When you delete a photo from recents or from all photos, you are physically deleting the photo. And if you recall, you can actually go down to that recently deleted album in order to recover it if you need to. Right? And then finally, if you go to an album and you want to remove a photo from the album, you can delete that photo without you can remove the photo from the album. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here. You can remove the photo from the album without deleting the photo from all photos and recents. All right, I have a recipe for that. So meaning as you are organizing that album for your holiday card, for 2021 holiday card, you can add and remove photos to that album, and you can remove that photo without deleting it. You can remove the photo from the album without deleting it. All right, let's make some albums. I'm going to give you 2 strategies for creating a custom album, 2 methods. Method one is where you select the photos first and you add to an album. I actually think that this process is more intuitive. All right, I like it better, right? And I'll show you how to do that. We'll demonstrate. I'll have you create a throwaway album, all right, for this purpose. And then number 2 is you can create the album first, which means it'll be an empty album when you create it, but then you add photos to it, either as part of that same process, or you can add photos later. In fact, you can always add photos later to an album, right? But if you do I don't like this strategy as much, right? But if you ever want to explore using folders, right, to organize your albums, you would have to do that strategy. You'd have to create that structure first. Okay. All right, let's go on. So Nancy posed a question: under albums with a square like recents, how do you delete the square? I will show you how you delete albums, Nancy. That'll be one of the examples, one of the album actions that we go through. All right. Recents cannot be deleted, right? Because recents is the master copy, right, of the of the photo. All right. So how do you create a album? By selecting the photos first. By the way, this is an experiment on my part. What you're looking at, you're actually seeing the action on the right-hand side, and we're just about done with it, and I'm going to walk through it. All right, so here's what you do. Actually, I'm going to stop this. Sorry, I can't. I'm going to cover it up because I think it's distracting. Sorry, I'm going to let it just keep going. I thought I could move it. All right, so let's walk through the process. I've given you steps 1 through 7 to create an album using a photo. I am so sorry. This is really distracting. I don't like this experiment. Oh, okay, all right. Let's walk through it. I am so sorry. I think that's distracting on the screen. Let's walk through the recipe, and I'm gonna display it on using my phone. Right. So here's how you're going to do this. You are going to display recents. All right. So I am now in my recents, and this is where I have 7,318 photos. All right. I do recents, right? And I'm going to go to the photos that I took on Valentine's Day. Up on the upper right-hand corner of the screen, one of the commands is select. And select is the process that you can do in order to put check marks by photos. And so I can go through and I can swipe over photos and I can put check marks by photos. All right, so now I have put check marks by a number of photos. If you look at the recipe on the slide deck, I now tap the share icon in the lower left. I tap share. Right, I tap share. And then I tap add to album. Right, when you do this process, you now have a couple of choices. One of those choices is to create a new album. Right, you can tap on new album right at the very top. Or, by the way, if you are planning to put these photos into an existing album, you could actually find all of your albums down below. But I am demonstrating how to create a custom album. And so I am going to tap on new album. Right, I tap on new album, and now it comes up and asks for a name. Valentine's is what I would call this. And I can now tap on save. And I have now created a custom album that contains those selected photos. Let's go back and check. I'm going to go back up to the top level. All right, in my albums. I do that by tapping on the back arrow up on the upper left. And there it says albums that contains 11 photos. And there is that album. Right. See, I think that process is pretty intuitive. By the way, if you come in and display this this GIF, later, this might be useful to help you walk through the steps. But what you can do is what we did in that process is we actually tap select. We selected a group of photos that we wanted to put into an album. You tapped share. You tapped add to album. You tapped new album. You gave the album a name, and you tap save. And that was an easy way to create your album. So think of it. If you took a bunch of photos at a family gathering, and you say, well, this group of photos would be great for an album, you can then use this process to quickly create a custom album for that set of photos. Okay, next strategy. Promise I'm not going to do that animated stuff with this one. That was an experiment that failed, by the way. I didn't like it. It was too distracting. It might be useful if you're coming back and studying later, but it's not useful for what we're doing here. Right, strategy number 2 is you can create the album first and then come back and add the photos later. All right, let's demonstrate that steps. And I give you the recipe. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to albums and you're going to go to the top level, right? Up where you see albums up at the very top. And there is a plus sign. And of course, as we see in a lot of our apps, the plus sign means you're going to add something. All right, and so if I tap on the plus sign, it comes up and pops up on the screen. Well, what is it that you want to add? This is step number 2 in the process on your slide deck. You can then choose an album, or you can use this to create a folder, or you can use this to create a new shared album. Shared, we're going to talk about in STT 17. All right, but if I want to create an album, I can simply tap on New Album, and it's going to come up and ask for a name. And I am going to call this STT 15. And when I do that process, it is now coming up and asking, well, are there any recent photos that you would like to put there? And so now I can go through and I can check the photos. But see, it goes down to the very end of recents. The reason I like strategy number 1 a little better is because you can go back anywhere and you can select photos from any part of your timeline. And if I do this here, if I tap on done now, I have now created that photo album that contains those photos. I actually have 2 that are labeled STT15, one for practice. All right. So that's the recipe for doing that. You go to albums, go to the top level. Oh, I am so sorry. Having technical challenges here today. Okay, so there I should be back. Okay, you go to the top level of photos and you tap on the plus sign and you can do new album, new photo, new shared album, and then you can come back in and add photos to that as part of that same process. Right, so that's the process for creating albums. Question?
I don't know if this is a good time to ask, but briefly, what's the difference between an album and a folder? Is this a good time?
Yeah, no, we can cover that. We're not going to cover that how to do this, but the container that holds your photos is called an album. If you want to organize your albums, you can create another container that is called a folder, and albums would be stored under folders, right? So I have a folder that's called vacations. And under that folder, I have created 5 or actually 4 different albums. So the difference between albums and folders is an album is a container for photos, and a folder is a container for albums. All right, so it's part of a structure that you can add. Good question. There is documentation back on the class page that will allow you to review that process. Suzanne asked a question. How long do photos stay in recents? They stay in recents forever. All right, my recents is just as large as my all photos, right? They stay there forever. It's just another way of organizing it. Can you rearrange the order of an album? Yes, you can. I'll let you experiment with it, but if you do a long press on a photo, you can then move it around, right? And in fact, if you take a look, and if you look at the photo, the key photo for an album is the first one that it sees, right? And if you don't like that, you know, like as I look at my photos back here, and if I don't like, I intentionally put my tractor onto my favorites. That's because I did a long press on the photo and I moved it around, right? So you can move albums and you can move photos by doing a long press. All right, I'm 2 minutes over time already, and I have 4 more things that I want to cover. So I'm going to stick with it. All right, I'm going to keep you after class, not as punishment, but hopefully because we have more to cover. I have 4 more things that I want to cover. Remember that if you do have to drop off, we've got 34 people on the line right now. If you do have to drop off, remember you can come back to the video and you can pick up these topics a little bit later after tomorrow. All right, here is the add photo step. And by the way, this add photo step works to add to any photo, right? Where if, I demonstrated this a little bit ago, where you can go to select up on the upper right hand corner. So you display, for instance, you display recents, and you can type on select, and then you can put check marks in photos, and then you tap on share, and you tap on add to album, and you can actually add that to an existing album. And I just did that right there. And by the way, I kind of like the animation that it does when it actually puts those photos into a folder. You actually see that on the screen. So that's the add photo step. All right, I have 4 things I want to show you. I want to show you how to remove a photo from an album. 2, I want to show you how to delete an entire album. You can actually delete an album without deleting the photos. Right? You say, that organization doesn't work anymore, I'm just going to delete it. I'm going to show you how you can play a slideshow from your album. This is where you can call your inner Ken Burns. And then finally, I'm going to show you how you can create a memory movie from an album. All right, so I've tried to give you the full recipe on all of these actions in the slide deck, right? And we'll walk through them fairly quickly. And feel free to use the slide deck in order to recreate the actions, the steps, in order to do this. And then finally, if you need to, you can come back in and watch the video, all right, the video archive. All right, so here's question number 1. How do you remove a photo from an album? So I am, first of all, going to go to my Valentine's album. So you go into the Photos app, you tap on albums, you tap on the album that you want to modify. Right, so I am now in the Valentine's album that I created just a few minutes ago. On the upper right-hand corner, there is select. So I tap on select. Up on the upper left, there is a select all, but more likely you are going to tap on 1 or 2 photos that you want to remove from this album, and you just put a check mark by them, right, in the select process. Down on the lower right, there is a trash can for delete. And now there's a very important step here, very, very important step. You are given 2 options right here, right? Because you tapped delete the trash can from inside of an album, it is now giving you 2 options. Option 1 is to 6A on your slide deck, by the way. Option 1 or option A is to remove the photo from the album. Option B is to delete the photo permanently. Right? There's a big difference between the 2, right? And so that's why it's a really important step. I'm going to do remove from album, and now my album is now smaller. Right? So that's the step to remove photos from an album. So if you are if you are using an album to capture your 2020 holiday card photos, you can add and you can remove from that at your discretion. Okay, action number 2. How to delete an entire album without deleting the photos. So once again, you start this process in the Photos app, you tap on the albums, you tap on See All, right? That way it'll display all of your albums. And so I have decided that this Valentine's album that I just created a little bit ago, I am going to delete that whole album. I don't want to delete the photos, all right? And by the way, this shows you how much confidence there is in this process, right? Because I really don't want to delete these photos. These are darling photos from my grandkids, all right? I tap on Edit. So with the album displayed, I tap on Edit, which is up on the upper right-hand corner of the screen. I tap on Edit, and now I get this little red circle with a minus sign on the upper left-hand corner of all of the albums. And so I can tap on that delete icon, and it is now asking for a confirmation. And in fact, this is a very good confirmation in that it says, are you sure you want to delete the album's Valentine's? The photos will not be deleted. So that actually confirms that we can delete the album. And I tap on delete album. We can delete the album without deleting the photos, right? Those same photos you can actually see in some of the other albums that I've created there. All right, so that's the second recipe related to album actions. How do you delete an entire album? Next, how do you play a slideshow from an album? All right, you have a family gathering, and maybe you're doing this on your iPad so that you can share, all right? Or maybe you get one of the connector kits for your iPad where you can plug your phone or your iPad into your television, right? Apple creates one of these, and they're available from other sources. Send me an email and I can send you a link on what that looks like. I don't have mine right here, but it's a cable connector that plugs into your charging cable and then will accept a cable from your TV. It's pretty handy. All right, so how do you do this? I'm going to tap on Done here. I'm going to go back to my Albums tab. Right. So here's the step-by-step. You tap on the Albums tab and you tap on See All. And then you tap on the desired album. I am going to use my STT15 album that I created. Right. So I want to create a slideshow from this album. I tap on the 3 dots that are way on the upper right-hand corner of the screen, 3 dots. You tap on the 3 dots. This is like a share function for the album. And you're going to have to scroll down a little bit until you see slideshow. You can tap on slideshow, and this is where you are calling your inner Ken Burns. Now you're going to get better response on the slideshows that you look at on your own device. All right, but you get that Ken Burns type of transition. Now, by the way, if you tap in the middle of the display, you can pause it. So I tapped right in the middle of the display of the slideshow, and you can pause it. There's a pause icon there. And then if you look at options, you can actually change some of the slideshow options. So for instance, I was using the Ken Burns theme. I'm just assuming everybody knows who Ken Burns is, all right? Think of the Civil War, or you know, he did a national park series, or he did a series on there's dozens of Ken Burns documentaries that where basically he takes old photos and then displays them. You can also change the music, right? You can actually combine it with Ken Burns music, and you can speed it up and you can slow it down. If you take it to the rabbit and the hare side, you can take it to the rabbit side to speed it up, and you do done, and now you press play, and now it's going to flip through these more quickly. All right, I'm going to tap done in order to put that away. So that is how you do a slideshow from an album, right? The steps are: you display the album, you go to the three dots. That's the one that's kind of hidden in this process. So you display the album and you have to go to those three dots that are up in the upper right-hand corner. You do that and you tap, you go down to slideshow. And then in order to change it, you can tap in the center, and you can tap on options in order to change the transitions or the music. Now, there's another similar strategy. And
Don?
Yes, question.
Where are the three dots?
Okay, so I'm going to go back. So I'm looking at my albums. All right, so here are my albums. All right, so I tapped on the albums tab on the bottom. And then I tap on see all.
Yes.
And now here are my albums. So I tap on the desired album. That's step number 3 on the slide deck. I tap on the desired album. And by the way, it can't be favorites. Favorites won't do it. All right, so it has to be one of your custom albums. Recents won't do it. It has to be one of your custom. And then I am displaying the album. And then up on the upper right-hand corner of that display, I have the 3 dots.
If I have a 6, will this show up? An iPhone 6?
Yes, but you might, it might be in a slightly different location. If you have a 6 with an older version of iOS, if you have a share icon, if I recall, they might have done that with a share icon in earlier versions.
Okay.
Send me an email and
I will do that.
I'll point you in the right direction if you can't see it.
All right, fine. Thank you.
All right, and you go to the 3 dots and then you scroll down to the slideshow. All right, or you slide down to the memory movie. In fact, that's what we're on right now. If we choose memory movie, all right, it's another version of a slideshow. All right, and once again, you can change the music for it, and you can do some editing. And then if you want to save this movie, if you want to save the video that you come off of this with, you can tap on that share icon on the lower left. You tap on share, and there is save. You have to scroll down a little bit. Save video. And you can tap on save video, and then you would be able to come back and find that video under your videos in the Photos app. Okay. Wow, how long did I keep you overtime? 16 minutes so far. All right, we're almost done. I want you to never stop learning on this stuff. By the way, all this new stuff that you're trying, when you're part of our community, you know, you keep reading all kinds of research that when you try something new, like what we're looking to do with organizing your photos, it's really good for your brain. So, you know, never stop learning. Here's what we did today. We talked about albums. We defined what an album is. We talked about the predefined albums. We talked about creating albums, adding photos to albums. And then at the end here, we explored 4 different actions. How to remove a photo, how to remove an album, how to do slideshows, and how to do memory movies. On those actions, I think you will find similar to what we have on the left-hand side of your screen, the recipes on that were pretty detailed. All right. Going on, follow-up questions. You know, if something isn't falling together for you, you know, send me an email, and you know, I will respond via email. Sometimes I'll give you additional links that you can follow. Remember, if you want to get more information about upcoming topics, you can go to links.seniortechclub.com/Tuesdays. Next time, this is a topic that I've never really covered thoroughly before, but this is our 7th session in our iPhone photography series, where we are going to focus on editing photos. Right. So if you want to explore things like cropping and rotating photos, or adding filters to photos, or modifying your portrait photos, or if you want to do markups, if you want to add text, or if you want to draw or circle on a photo, we will cover all of those topics next week. That's session number 7 in our photography series. And of course, you can get more information on that by going to our Tuesdays page. All right. Aside from that, thanks for putting up with me. I have taken you 18 minutes overtime. I'm sorry. You can come back and revisit any of these topics by watching the video. Please stay well. Keep watching your distance. Keep masking. Keep washing your hands. Keep learning. I hope you are successful in the vaccine lottery, those of you who are still playing that lottery. Aside from that, stay well, and hope to see you next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.